Hello and welcome back, everybody, to episode 285 of the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and today I have a little bit of a cold, but I'm going to work my way through this podcast. If you have questions for the podcast, simply send us an email at this address, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every question each and every week. Thank you so much. Our first question is from Dom, and Dom says this. Dom is learning the squat and has been doing some, goblet squats and getting ready. Wonderful movement, by the way, and he thanks me for inventing it. Overhead squatting with the dowel and front rack mobility work. I'm finally getting under the barbell and notice my walkout sucks. What should I do to fix this? I do plan to just practice it. I think something like front or overhead squats with the empty bar for 10 sets of 2 several times a week. But if you have a magic drill that you have found really helps people dial their walkout in, I would very much love to hear about it. Dom, the first thing, and this is something I picked up from teaching high school kids, very often people do a little marathon when they back out. I've been around really good lifters my whole life, and that's over and over one of the big cues I got is you don't need to step back very far. And it's interesting, I'm not dropping names, but I was watching Ed Cohen coach recently, and I got to tell you, when you get a guy like that, the best powerlifter of all time, and how simple he makes the walkout and how simple he makes the squat, it really does remind me that many of us just go over the top on this nonsense. So when you get into the rack, I would really strongly suggest that you always have a solid grip. I like the idea of, a lat pull down, squeeze it up. And then when you step back, do your best to make we call it the walkout. But every time I step back, I always step back first with my right foot. So good grip, eyes up, sternum up. It's hard to lift and tuck. And as I'm stepping back, a couple of things I want to make sure you look for. Don't do any of this swinging. Don't turn that heavy barbell into a discus throw. The other thing is, don't let yourself turn this into a side bend. Do your best to keep that bar in the same plane and no twisting or turning. I only take one step back with my right foot, and then I bring my left foot back, and then I wedge my heels into the ground. I guess I'm turning my toes outward, My feet are already slightly outward, but I consciously take an extra moment to screw my heels into the ground, kind of away from each other. And then, and this is something I love what Ed said, is that he doesn't like us using our back very much in the descent. He says, save that for the up part. And I thought, that's brilliant. So practice descending. Since you've done the goblet squat, I always try to get people to imagine the goblet squat. So you're driving your knees apart and you're making space where your hips are, and you're dropping in a perfect line. Sorry, I can't tell you much more. This is something you could pick up at a workshop or a meeting in literally seconds. It takes a lot longer sometimes to explain something than to just have, slap you on the back, Dom, and say, that's good enough, let's keep going. So thank you. Fun question, and I hope it helped. We have a question from Gary. I have a question regarding when would you suggest someone to swap from a single kettlebell program to a double kettlebell program? I'm 42 years old, 65 inches tall, and 215 pounds. I'm fairly new to kettlebells, but not working out in general. Okay. I have a good bench, decent back squat, never worked on deadlifting, which I regret. Yeah, okay. So this is what he has in his gym, 2 16K bells, 2 20K bells, and 160. I have tried your ABC program, which I love, by the way, thank you, but the presses and front squats feel light, while the cleans still prove challenging, even with the double 16s. Should I stick with the single bell program or just continue to practice on the double bell work? Gary, this is not an unusual question for someone new to kettlebells. there's an image in kettlebells now, and maybe it was the whole post millennium group when Dragon Door came out with the kettlebells during this real renaissance of the kettlebell. It's happened in the last about 24, 25 years, maybe a little bit longer, is that lots and lots of the early programs were just single kettlebells. So when you bought the books, you were getting only single kettlebell workouts. I'm a barbell guy, and for me, once you've squatted a lot of weight, doing one single squat with 24 kilos, 32 kilos doesn't really hit you. So the first thing, Gary, I want you to kind of wash your mind out of this idea that you progress by going single kettlebell to the doubles. I think this is a little bit more of a wave. There are great exercises with the single kettlebell. I like the single arm row. I like the single overhead press. I love the single arm bench press with the opposite side free. If you like that whole family of Romanian deadlifts with the single bell, the Bulgarian split squats with the single bell, I get it. I think there's real value to that, and I understand it. Turkish get-ups are best done with the single kettlebell and the kettlebell snatch. The other exercises, and you'll notice in the ABC that it was really easy for me to come up with a double program. The issue you're having with your clean, let me finish saying that point first. So I would suggest for most of our listeners who want hypertrophy and say power, double kettlebells, the ABC is a great way to go. The armor building complex. On the conditioning side, sometimes I think the single bells are a little bit better because you can really shoot the reps up on those. I mean, something as simple as the RKC snatch test, 5 minutes you have to snatch 100 times. I mean, I've done it a number of times, and it always is hard on my heart and lungs. I can't imagine doing that, 6 days a week as my training program, but it definitely, makes that heart bounce. On your clean, the first thing, I would like you to look at this as a technical problem. Now, I have an article over on dragondoor.com. I call myself the champion of the clean or something like that. I don't know. But I have a clean workout in there that is it's single arm kettlebell cleans followed by single side kettlebell front squats. Very simple. The numbers are Fibonacci numbers 8, 5, 3, 3, 2, 1. Might be an idea for you to look at that, but I think you have to practice your kettlebell. So first, kettlebell clean. So first, we need to improve your kettlebell clean. Now, almost universally, when I work with people who are new to the kettlebell community, when they do cleans, they do dead hang cleans versus that hinge swing clean that we teach at the certs. The bell gets thrown back, that sometimes if you know American football, the long snapper for the punts and the field goals and the extra points. You really want to get your hands deep behind you and then use that hinge to pop the weight up into that, rack plank. I wouldn't mind seeing you do just practicing the clean because like you said, and to quote you, you're very comfortable with the press and the front squat, but let's practice the clean. In fact, if you don't mind, gentle listeners, if something's holding your back in your training, circle it and work on it. If you dedicate 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years would be a little extended, to a technical issue, you're going to be surprised how well you'll improve on it. And honestly, I'm starting to think more and more that the kettlebell clean is one of the least appreciated movements in the whole gym. I mean, we're talking barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, and machines. And I love the exercise, and I'd like you to get better at it. Okay, Gary? So thank you. We have a question from Mike. Mike is 54 years old, healthy, and love to train, but he has one major issue that he's not been able to conquer. I am one of those, says Mike, loathsome program hoppers, and cannot get out of my own way. Each week I commit to starting something like easy strength only to move on to a different program and then usually trash that one workout and start another. This has been going on for years now. I have the dedication, and thanks to you and others in the field that I truly respect, I now have the know-how, but I just can't get through my thick head to finish a program. Please, please, please call me a dumbass, yell at me, or pass along some other advice that I can fall back on when I start thinking about starting another program. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to expand your toolkit. One thing you could easily do is get yourself a coach or a trainer and sit down with this coach or trainer and say, this is what I want to do. And I'm going to, please help me stick with it for 2 weeks. You're paying this person in the at least on the trainer side, or you just have a wonderfully generous person like myself on the coach side. Another thing you can do is get yourself a training partner. And I'll be honest with you, folks. I mean, I train in my home gym in my garage, and I love it there. But what makes it great is the training partners. Mike Warren Brown shows up, TJ, we got Erica, we got Andrew, we've got, people who come and go. I mean, most of them are named Mike, by the way, Mike, and Mike. But what's nice is that they hold me accountable. One thing that helps me stay accountable is the fact that I compete as an Olympic lifter. So when I look ahead 8, 9, 10, 12 weeks down the road, I know I'm going to have to weigh in the morning. I'm going to have to step on the platform. I'm going to have to follow the rules. I'm going to pop the weights over my head. And that keeps me on focus for about 3 months. If I don't have a weightlifting meet coming up, very often, these are some of my books back here. While I'm writing a new book, I'm experimenting with, okay, so I gave all of you kind people this program. Before I write the book, I go through the program also and really get a sense of the issues that I might miss. It's weird because it's program proofreading, if you will. I'll write something and, about 2 weeks into the workouts, I'll go, this is way too much or way too little. Currently right now, I'm doing my own barbell armor building formula, and I'm really having great success with it because I have added a few tweaks to the program that really seem to help me. I'm right now working on that impossible, duo. I'm losing body fat and I'm gaining muscle mass. And I got to tell you, at age 68, I didn't know that was possible, but, nutritional tweaks, focus on protein, some focus on fasting, upping my fruit, and doing the armor building formula for the barbell. It's working for me. And of course I walk a lot too. So I just gave you a few answers: a coach, a trainer, a training partner, and then of course the big one that helps me the most: have something in the sand, a line in the sand out there somewhere that's going to force you to get in there and follow your own program. One good thing you could do as a kettlebeller, if you're a kettlebeller, is sign up for a certification. And that pain of having the certification on the horizon is going to keep you on the bright path. I hope that worked. Thank you. Fun question, by the way. Thank you. I've got a question from Jack. Jack has it's a good question here. Let's listen to what Jack says. I recently read your book, Easy Strength, after being a long-time listener to your podcast. I've decided to give the Easy Strength program a go. I program bench press, pull-ups, deadlifts, front squats, and farmer carries. Okay. I also am using a variety of reps from 2 sets of 5, 5-3-2, 3x3, 6x singles, and 1x10. I'm looking to train 5 days a week using the Easy Strength program in conjunction with a pretty heavy schedule of grappling. And he trains 4 or 5 times a week with his particular martial art. I have a question around the programming of the Easy Strength workout. Can I program in the clean and jerk, snatch, and windmills using double kettlebells in the end of the sessions, or do you think that would be pushing it too hard on top of my grappling schedule? If you're talking about the kettlebell clean and jerk, the kettlebell snatch, and the windmills, I don't know how you would use a double kettlebell windmill, but hey, what do I know? is it too much? What are you chasing here with those 3 lifts? The windmills can be done in your warm-up. I see you have front squats there. You know, they don't often work in easy strength for a variety of reasons that I go through in the book. But if you're going to do in your warm-up goblet squats and windmills, you're covering a lot of ground there. Doing a finisher with the snatch or the GS style, you know, the clean and jerk, clean and jerk, clean and jerk with the double kettlebells, I mean, that's going to roast you and toast you. I just worry that since you're lifting 5 days a week, I just feel you're starting to chase too many rabbits. I think with your martial arts training, you know, that you're getting all the conditioning you're going to possibly need. I think, and I worry that that's going to be just more. Easy strength works with the martial arts. I know it because I get great feedback on it. A lot of people who fight professionally use it because it keeps the body weight down, but it also allows you to get very strong and to focus when you walk out of the weight room, to focus on the mat. So my answer is a little vague in this example because I don't mind you trying this, but just really keep your pulse on what's going on. Don't let yourself get blown up, you know, trying to chase a program that looks good on paper, but might not be good in the realities of what you're trying to do on the mat. Okay, thank you. Good question. Chris asks a question and he quotes Mike Boyle. I was recently listening to Mike Boyle give his talk on training youth athletes when he mentioned your name. Mike's a good dude. Mike does a real nice job acknowledging other people, and that's nice. Mike gave the statement from you about training youth athletes. First the movement, second the volume, third the load. Could you please expand on this concept? Which movements, when to increase volume, and when to increase load? Well, I mean, it's the most it depends answer ever. The movements I would tell you to do, well, we can go 2 ways, except I didn't do it this way myself, but you can just take the big 5, push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry, and, you know, maybe go with a youth 2-3 weeks with bench press. I'm just going to use the press because it's a safe time. 2-3 weeks with the incline press, 2-3 weeks with the military press, and then maybe 2-3 weeks of learning the dip. And of course, maybe some variation with all. So at the end of I don't know, even a summer or just a summer, winter, or fall, you're going to really expose this young athlete to a bunch of variations. You know, obviously, you know, lat machine and rows and pull-ups and chin-ups, the whole deadlift family, the whole squat family, and the whole loaded carry family, and just keep changing things around. I didn't learn that way. We were taught the power clean, the military, the front squat, and the bench press. Our program, and I have an article on it. In fact, it's in Never Let Go, the whole article, about how I took that program, which is called the Southwood program. We did it for 8-6-4, and then that kind of washes out 3 to 6 weeks of that for a middle school or a freshman in high school. You've pretty much tapped out what you're going to do. From there, I moved to 5 sets of 5 with every other Wednesday being a set of 5, a set of 3, and then a max double, whatever that means. Just have to get the lifts. And in that way, we're working the movements. And now with the 8-6-4 to 5 sets of 5 to the 5-3-2 max test, we're adding volume. And of course, the second I said 5-3-2 max test, we're increasing load. Problem with the adolescent athlete, the teenage athlete, and probably that weird period of, you know, when people who, I got to tell you folks, when you're hitting that secondary puberty, you know, the one where you stop growing this way and you start growing wide, if you're lifting weights, you're making an investment on your life. It's going to stay around long. Those gains in lean body mass are going to stick with you. Ideally, you don't also do some, you know, increasing adipose tissue. Don't get fat. But if you're working with that 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old, you're going to see that, it's going to change remarkably from, every few weeks. The teenage athlete, very often, and I guess this 20-year-old too, they really want to chase load. And I love that idea because I did too. But I think it's also important that we emphasize and beat to death movement quality, appropriate volume, and load as appropriate. Tell Mike to bring me out and I'll do the whole workshop for you, okay? Thanks. We got a fairly long question from Carl, and I think it's going to be worth the time. I'm a 34-year-old former competitive distance runner, mostly steeplechase. At the pinnacle of my career, I was a first-team Division I All-American, good. Competed at the old Hayward Field for the Olympic trials. Now I'm a father of a 2-year-old, and I work full-time. Life happens. I still love to run and get out 6 days a week. I also lift 2 to 3 times a week, and I think that's great, which I also enjoy. But I do not have the time, bandwidth, energy to log 100 plus miles a week and the necessary recovery, honestly, more so the recovery aspect, to be as good as I once was. Most of my training and lifestyle is geared toward trying to be as healthy and strong as I can for years to come, which is great, but it doesn't really scratch the itch I have to compete at times and leaves me a little bored. The challenge now is training appropriately hard while knowing that I've already run as fast as I can in my life. I don't know about that, but yeah, that would be common, but you can still do better. It's hard mentally to hold back and adjust to my current level. My question for you is, how did you manage these transitions mentally as you continue to compete beyond your prime in the discus and strength events? Well, the first thing is you're a collegiate athlete and you're a runner, so we're assuming you're pretty smart. You got to use this more. You got to think more. You got to use your brains more. With your 6 runs a week, the first thing I would question you is, what days are you doing the hills? Because, it's all about the biggest bang for the buck once you have those little ones chasing you around and eating up all your time. For me, what helped the most is that I set up a home gym. So I got rid of that commute time. I used to train with my buddy John, and I would drive probably 15, 20 minutes to get to the gym. We would work out, and then I always felt like I was just, since I drove to the gym, I had to work out an hour and then drive home. So we're looking at, 2-hour commitments, 3, 4, 5 times a week, where honestly, I wasn't really doing much except driving for 40 minutes and then just wasting time. The busier I got, the better I got. In my book, Easy Strength Omni book, I talk about moving now to lifting just 2 days a week and just focusing on the big ones and jumps right after. Man, it completely changed my career. So I would say first, home gym, come up with some workouts that make a lot of sense to you for your home gym. 2 to 3 times a week, as you already noticed, but train at home. Next, I think you're going to have a hard hill day or hard sprint day at least once a week. You need a big garbage miles day. In fact, I would compete if I were you. I don't know if there's still those, we used to call them bagel runs, but those every weekend there's a 5 and 10K. I'd love to see you get involved in those. But the most important thing, like when it comes to recovery, on my 40th birthday, I bought myself a hot tub. I have a sauna right there. I have foam rollers and all these different things. So there are some good answers. Invest in recovery tools, invest in a home gym, compete as appropriate as often as you can. The other things I'm going to ask you, what's your shopping list look like? What's your menu for the week look like? Because the more you organize and plan things, every Tuesday night, I get a delivery of fruits and vegetables from this place that specializes in delivering fruits and vegetables. So if I shop on Sunday, my Sunday shop, I know that on Tuesday night, I'm going to get a whole new swath of veggies and fruit without even having to think about it. You've got to use your toolkit. You've got to think things through a little bit more. I am amazed at how much a breakfast and dinner menu help me compete. Because if I'm in my home gym doing a quick workout, I know I have 12 to 15 minutes while that thing cooks or boils or whatever it is, okay? And it gave me 12 to 15 minutes where I was cooking dinner, but also able to do, thick bar deadlifts and incline bench press or whatever it is. And a whole other area that I guarantee most of us miss is, what's your meditation practice like? What are you doing up here? I use two, and I've mentioned it many times in the podcast. I use the 1 moment meditation, the 1 minute check-in. And then I also use brain.fm. And I really think there's great value in teaching yourself to fall asleep at will, fall asleep deeply and soundly at night. Even with 2-year-olds, they're going to have their own opinion about that. But at least you can practice getting to sleep and getting your relaxation time. I mean, if you decide to invest in a hot tub and a cold plunge and a sauna and an infrared sauna and this and that, that's great. And I respect it. But let me just finish up my point here with this. It's great to have all that stuff, but you have to use it. It's great to have the hot tub, but you have to plan in to use it. So in a sense, I want you to also think about a weekly menu, if you will, of on the day I run hills, that's the night I take the long hot bath. The day I do X, that's the night I take the extended cold shower or ice plunge. Come up with I would schedule a pedicure every 2 weeks as a runner. Get in there, get the nails cleaned up, get the dead skin off, and then get that wonderful massage that goes along with it. Plan these things, plan the recovery. On the day I lift and run, my recovery that day is the vibrating gun. On the days I do this, that's the day I meditate for half an hour, not for 1 minute. I hope to help. I did everything I just said, and it kept me going a long time. Thank you. Fun question. Reach out to me in the future. Let me know how this goes, okay? We have a very simple question to answer from Jerry. I seem to enjoy doing my strength work in a circuit rather than a sequence. I'll need more information to understand the difference. For example, I might do a set of squats, then a set of dips, then a set of pull-ups. Oh, okay, sure. Then another round of squats, etc. Going around 3 to 5 times, getting 3 to 5 sets of each movement. My question is it worse to do a circuit like that than to do 3 to 5 sets of squats and then 3 to 5 sets of dips, 3 to 5 sets of pull-ups? How much worse? Okay. And he does very short rest periods, and he's a big believer in the density thing we talk about. I got to tell you, Jerry, I think there's great value in what you're doing. Now, if you were telling me, Jerry, you would say, well, I want to be an elite powerlifter, Olympic lifter, I would probably stop and say, okay, we're going to have to focus because of the technical aspects here. But if you're a traditional person, and by the way, gentle listeners, I hope you listen to this program, 3 to 5 sets of squats, dips, and chins, that's pretty good. It's a pretty good program. And the way you're doing it, because it allows you to keep those compressed rest periods, I think it's going to be pretty good for general body composition. Now, you can't outrun, I don't know. Someone told me that the average American eats 8,000 calories on Super Bowl. Well, if you're eating 8,000 calories every day, I don't know how you're going to work those off. But if you have reasonable caloric restraint, calories in, calories out is true. I mean, there's other things that are true too. I mean, the insulin thing is probably true. The Syndrome X thing, it's obvious to me. I just got back from a place called Walgreens, and it's obvious to me that a lot of people need some help on that. But I like your idea. I don't think there's any drawbacks at all. For those of you listening in and want to try something fun, this is by the way, this is also a great way to coach, where you go from thing to thing to thing to thing, build up the whole. If you're a kettlebell person, I mean, you can probably just do it with the one implement. But there's real value to this, and I hope you really enjoy it. okay? Hey, thanks so much, and I hope that helped, Jerry. Oh, Andrew asks a very simple, quick question. Andrew says, I've added the Olympic lifts to my routine. I have one very quick question. At times, my jerk feels more like a push press. Pretty common, and the answer is pretty simple. The cue I always use is slap or stomp. You can't think through a ballistic movement. So at certifications, I always tell people, you jerk with your ears. So we're going to do that minor dip, and then I'm going to try to make as much noise as I can with my front foot in the jerk. Now, if you're push jerking, I think there's value as you're still learning. Dip and then slap both feet on the ground, and very often that's the answer. I have a whole, in one of my little booklets in here, one of my workshop booklets, I go through this in great depth on the coaching cues, but noise, the slap of the feet on the ground for the Olympic lifts is shockingly a good idea. When I was young, a lot of Olympic lifters did that with the snatch and clean too. If you're an American Olympic lifter, I think there's still, when I give advice that's older, sometimes I get this, well, that's not what, and they'll say some really long name filled with consonants is doing. And I go, yeah, but, we're talking to I'm a 68-year-old Olympic lifter. There's a good chance that no national team in the world wants me to compete for them at the Worlds or the Olympics as an open lifter. So sometimes something that fun. And if you just want to try that with the Olympic lifts, so while you're doing your snatch and your cleans, try to make a little noise on the platform and see if that gives a nice little pop. Good friend of mine, Mike, he's my DPT, doctor of physical therapy. His daughter is an athlete, and she really liked that cue on her power cleans, make some noise. So if it works for, I think she's in the 7th grade. If it works for a 7th grader and it works for a 68-year-old, there's a good chance it'll help you too. Thanks so much. Okay, we have a fun little question from Terry. It's about Vince Gironda, who I had great respect for. I've been told by multiple people he was a bit of a nut. But I got to tell you one thing, when you read his work and study his nutritional ideas, the guy was way ahead of his time. After the passing of my grandfather at age 101, I found lots of his old training logs. That's so cool. And in them, he seemed to do a lot of the same movements favored by Gironda, like the V-dip, the sissy squat, sternum chin-up, and the body drag curl. Still a good lift. Well, he didn't follow the dietary advice of Gironda and was a vegan. Yeah, it would be hard to be a vegan and do the meat and eggs diet, plus all the desiccated liver. He seemed to follow lots of Gironda's high-volume, short rest period training protocols well into his 70s and 80s. I've been training around a few nagging injuries, and I thought some new movements done as an honest workout, Vince's 8 sets of 8, might do me some good this winter. There's no question here, but I'll just say this. If you're a home gym trainer, by the way, it could be a kettlebell person, a dumbbell person, or a barbell person, and you decided to do what he used to recommend by, you do a set of 8, you rest, a set of 8, you rest, 8 sets of 8 with every exercise. But the idea over time is to increase the density by lowering the rest periods. You get a magnificent pump doing this. And it's fun. It'd be a great change your pace. If you can still buy his book, Unleashing the Wild Physique. I loaned it to somebody years ago. I haven't seen it since. But it is a compilation of really, really interesting diet and lifting advice. By the way, do I agree with everything and anything I recommend? Well, of course not. But it doesn't mean that the intellectual challenge of going, just eat meat and eggs for 3 days and desiccated liver tablets and brewer's yeast. And then, like on the 3rd day, you have a salad. And then you do that. I mean, I don't know if I would do that now, but it is a fascinating thing to at least think about. And when you see the amount of supplements he recommended, it's impressive. And I hope that answered your question, okay? And thank you so much, okay? Thanks. We got a question from Jerry, and Jerry is 75. He's been working out fairly seriously his entire adult life. It keeps me sane. I understand that one. I ruck 5 miles every morning since I can no longer run, no cartilage in my left knee, and strength train, body weight and kettlebells 4 days a week. He also has a rowing machine and an exercise bike on other nights. Where I lack your discipline is in diet. It's not as if I don't know how to eat healthy, but some days I weaken and tend to stress eat. I know it's not healthy and you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet, but I find it extremely difficult to stay on course. As my wife is disabled, I do all the cooking and meal prep. Any tips on how to stay the course of healthy eating? Well, first off, hats off to you, Jerry. I mean, that whenever I hear, one of our listeners, some of you have tough lives, and you guys, you rally up and you take care of business. It's impressive. You do all this for your wife, and hats off to you. First thing I have to say is this: at 75, with the work you're doing, the first thing I want to say is, I understand why you stress out. I understand why you stress eat. It makes sense. You're under stress. About the only thing I could say, I'm not going to give you any diet advice, but I'm wondering that you might be just overdoing it a little bit. You do the 5 miles every morning, and then you got the rower and the exercise bike and the kettlebells. I'm just wondering if part of the reason you stress eat is because you're going to the well a little bit too often. I would love you to just do some very simple thing like this. Maybe instead of rucking, and by the way, the ruck gear I wear now is only 10 pounds. I'll be increasing that as my body weight slides down, but maybe go lighter on, just simply try this for a week, Jerry. Go lighter on that ruck, or just walk the 5 miles every morning, for a couple of days, and just see if that helps you deal with these eating issues. Because sometimes, like I tell one of my clients, he likes to burn the candle at both ends and then take a blowtorch down the middle. And then he wonders why all these other things happen. On eating, I'm going to give you the same advice I just gave somebody else. And this is the only thing I really can do to help you. You do the meal prep and you do the cooking. The thing I would say to you is, what's your menu? I think, I have a couple of menu items that are silly easy to make. I make this one, it used to be my Tuesday night meal. Things are a little different. I've been traveling a lot, but this is my Tuesday night meal. In the morning, I get up and I marinate chicken thighs literally all day long. And I have this frozen, these frozen vegetables from Costco. I get everything from Costco. And I start I start cooking the chicken. They're marinated. I do cook them a little, the temperature's down a little bit. I cook them longer, lower temperature, because I like them to be a little bit moist. And then, say 30 minutes into the process, I take them out, and then I layer the frozen vegetables, a big mound of them. I layer them underneath the chicken thighs, and I let them cook a little bit in the chicken fat and a little bit, and just get them ready to eat. And weirdly, it doesn't sound like much of a meal, but I can have kimchi or sauerkraut with it. I can have fruit with it. I can do all these other things. But you're talking about a meal that takes practically no time to make. I have my jambalaya I make. I have my chicken noodle soup I make. I always have in my fridge overnight oats that I make. I use Pyrex, the ones with the red tops. So when I open my fridge up, you can look in and you can see chopped vegetables. You can see salads ready to eat. You can see chicken. I always cook. Oh, by the way, always cook excessive amounts of chicken and sprinkle it on food for 2 more days. But I can just look in my fridge and see all this food, and then I deal with it. Just a few thoughts. The nice thing about a menu is that it saves your brain from having to worry about, what am I going to do now? Because you have it listed. Monday night is steak and salad. Tuesday night is Viking enchiladas. Wednesday night is jambalaya. Thursday night is chicken noodle soup. Friday is breakfast for dinner. There was the old week when my kids were young. And that's how I cooked that week in, week out for years, because that's what everybody liked and it was easy to cook and prepare for. So thank you. I hope that helps. Menu, shopping list, back off the wrecking a little bit and let me see how this goes, okay? Our final question today is from Mike. Mike says this: I got your book, Intervention, years ago and just reread it. You know what? It's a good book. I mean, okay, I'm the author, okay. Have your views on anything in there changed over the last decade? And is there anything you would add? Yeah, that's a good question. I'll be able to answer it easily. Almost the moment the book came out, I realized that the 10 questions were too many. Now I have basically 2 questions. If you're on Dan John University, we have that free goal setting course. But I'm very much, so the first thing is, what's your goal? And the second question is, what's your age? If your goal is to play in the National Football League and your age is 47, I'm not going to tell you not to follow your dreams, but it ain't going to happen, okay? If your goal is to win Mr. Universe and you're 85 years old and morbidly obese, of course, maybe those 2 things don't work. I'm not saying you can't, but it's going to be quite a tough thing. If you're my height and you want to play in the National Basketball Association, by the way, I just looked at pictures from this last weekend. In crowd seams, I'm a tall guy, but it ain't nothing like the tall guys in the NBA. And the skill is another one. So the big question is now, what's your goal? And for those of you who are wondering how to figure out what your goal is and you struggle, this is a technique I use in my inner circle, is don't figure out what your goal is, figure out what you don't want. I'm very candid about, I don't want to be in the home, I don't want my daughter Kelly dropping me off and saying, oh, look, Dad, bingo on Wednesday. I don't want that. So that makes me work out nearly every day, makes me eat a lot of vegetables and fruits, makes me keep an eye on my protein, keep an eye on my drinking, keep an eye on, making sure I get my health care taken care of, as often as I can. And because that's what I don't want. In 2 years as an athlete, I'll be 70. And one of the things I don't want is to not compete. And so that helps me. There's a follow-up book to that. In fact, the 3 books we should sell them in a series, Mike. There's Intervention, which is the big global thing. The second one is Can You Go? And that's my assessment. And then the third one that they all kind of link together is Now What? And Now What, it's interesting. I coach up over here at the university, and my athletes are all sharing some copies of Now What with each other, because they're starting to realize that you can't just, we all work hard. There's no question. Every listener, you all work hard, and God bless you for being wonderful. But you have to think things through and adapt and figure out what went wrong and how to get better next time. So, Mike, I hope that helped. So, yeah, go get Can You Go and go get Now What, and come to my workshop. Raise your hand. I'll go through all this together, okay? Well, there you go. That was a fun episode. A lot of questions. The nice thing about this episode is that I felt the questions were all pretty short answers, which is great for me. And again, if you have questions, send them to the podcast at this address, podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I sit down here each and every week, and it's an honor to do this, and I do my best to answer each and every question. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.